dear children. I hope you all fine. I'm happy to see you in this video session of Unit 24, Environmental Science. In this lesson, we are going to see about the three types of cycle: carbon cycle, water cycle and nitrogen cycle. As well as in this lesson, we are going to see about the adaptation of animals and adaptation of plants. So let's move on to this video session.
Hello children, in this lesson we are going to see the different aspects of environmental science, biogeochemical cycles and human impacts of act on water cycle, nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle. Adaptation of plants with the habitat, adaptation of animals, bat and earthworm, recycling of water and its importance also we are going to see. The last topic is importance of water conservation and water recycling method. Biogeochemical cycle, that is bio means life, geo means earth. Biosphere is a part of the earth where life exists. All the resources of biosphere can be grouped into major categories. Biotic or living factors, which includes plants, animals and all other living organisms. Abiotic or non-living factors, which includes all the factors like temperature, pressure, water, soil, air and sunlight, which affect the ability of organism to serve and reproduce. So in this lesson we are going to see the three cycles: water cycle, nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle. So these are the biogeochemical cycles. The first cycle is water cycle. This cycle is otherwise called as a hydrological cycle. So in this process, you all know very well water cycle. The water moves from one reservoir to the another by the process of evaporation, transpiration, conduction, sublimation, precipitation and infiltration methods. So evaporation is, you know very well how the water gets evaporates in the water bodies like oceans, seas, lakes, ponds and rivers. Sublimation is a conversion of a solid to the gas, that is ice sheets and ice caps from the north and the south poles. Transpiration is a process which plants release a water vapor into the atmosphere. Condensation, it's changing the gas phase into the liquid phase. Precipitation, that is change in wind or temperature, that is a cloud that make or combine together which makes a big droplets. Runoff, the water vapors pours down or it run down the surface of the earth. So runoff water combines to form like rivers, lakes and ends up into the seas as well as to the oceans. Infiltration, some of the precipitated water that moves deep into the soil. Percolation is a sum of the precipitated water that flows through the soil and porous or fractured rock. So this is a water cycle. So next is human impact on water cycle. The major water cycle is affecting due to the human being, only by the human beings. How the human beings are misusing this, dumping the plastic waste on the land and it becomes a water bodies polluted and the deforestation. These are the human impact in the water cycle. Next one is nitrogen cycle. It is an important nutrient needed for the survival in all living organism. So in this atmosphere we have a 78% of nitrogen in this air, but we are consuming only oxygen. So plants and animals is not utilizes atmosphere nitrogen, isn't it? Only we are inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide, while the plants are inhaling carbon dioxide and exhaling oxygen. They can use it from the form of ammonia, ammonic acids or in the nitrates. So nitrogen cycles will be explained in these process like nitrogen fixation, nitrogen assimilation, ammonification as well as nitrification and denitrifications. So, in nitrogen fixation, what will the name of the organisms are? Azobastor in the soil will be there, and rhizobiums in the root nodules, and blue-green algae is a gnostic is there in the nitrogen fixation. Next one is ammonification, is purifying the bacteria as well as fungi. The next one is nitrification, is nitrifying the bacteria, Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter. Denitrification is a denitrifying bacteria is a Pseudomonas. So the free living soil bacteria such as Pseudomonas is reduce the nitrates ions of the soil into the gaseous nitrogen. Human impacts on nitrogen cycle: burning fossil fuels, application of nitrogen, and other activities can increase the amount of biological available nitrogen and ecosystem. So it alters the biodiversity, changes the food web structure, and it also destroys the many habitats. The third cycle is a carbon cycle. Carbon is in various forms on earth. You know that one, and from a charcoal, diamond, graphite are the elemental forms of carbon. Combined form of carbon can include carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide and carbonate salt. All the living organisms are made up of carbon containing molecules like proteins and nucleic acids. During the respiration, plants and the animals release a carbon into the atmosphere, which forms the carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is also returned to the atmosphere through the decomposition of dead organic matter, burning the fossil fuels and volcanoes activities. Also the carbon is level of in the earth will be increases. Okay, human impact on the carbon cycle. More carbon moves into the atmosphere. How? Due to the burning of fossil fuels, as well as the important is deforestation. Most of the carbon in the atmosphere is in the form of carbon dioxide. When the carbon dioxide gas is increased, what will happen? The greenhouse effect and global warming takes place. The earth becomes much warmer. The next topic is adaptation of plants. Any features of organism or its parts that enables into the existence under the condition of the habitat is called as a adaptation. On the basis of water, we are dividing into the three categories are hydrophytes, xerophytes and mesophytes. First one is hydrophytes. The plant growing or near to the water, that is called as a hydrophytes. So hydrophytes may be called as a free floating or submerged plants. So these hydrophytes are live in the lakes, ponds or shallow water, marshy lands and marine habitats. Okay, so this hydrophytes have faced the certain challenges, that is availability of more water than it needed. Correct? No, water current may damage the plant body. Water level may change regularly. Okay, maintain the bouncy in the water. So adaptation of hydrophytes are: roots are poorly developed, plant body is greatly reduced, and submerged leaves are narrow or finely divided. The example is hydrilla. Floating leaves are long leaf stalks which enable the leaves to move up and down. In the response, no changes in the water level. The example is lotus. Air chambers provides a bouncy and mechanical support to the plants. Example is a swollen and the spongy petiole. The next one is xerophytes. Plants that grow in a dry habitats is called as xerophytes, and these plants develop the special structural and physiological characteristics to absorb much water they can get from the surroundings. So hydrophytes is always lives in or near into the water, and these xerophytes are live in a dry region. So it retain the water in their organism for a very long time to reduce the respiration rate, to reduce the consumption of the water also. Adaptation of the xerophytes. They have well developed roots. Roots are very deep to reach the layer of the water availability, isn't it like that? They store water more in their parenchymatous tissues They have a small size leaves with a waxy coating. Some of the xerophytes completes a life cycle within very short period because they doesn't have a sufficient moisture or water content in it. Next one is mesophytes. It's a very common land plant which can grow neither in a too wet or too dry. They do not need any extreme adaptation. So here have some of the adaptation of the mesophytes are roots of the mesophytes are well developed, and stem was very straight and branched, and leaves are very broad and thin. Presence of the waxy cutil in the leaf straps of the moisture lessens water loss. Leaves have stomata which closes in extreme heat and wind to prevent the transpiration. The next one is adaptation of animals. In this adaptation of animals, the temperature and the light are the form of energy which influence the various stage of life activities, growth, metabolism, reproduction, momentum, distribution and behavior. So in this lesson, we are going to see the adaptation features of bat as well as earthworm. Adaptation of bat. You all know very well a bat is a mammals that can able to fly. Most of the bats are lives in temples and caves also. So these bats also lives in the hollow logs of the trees. So human is important to reduce the insect population and helps to pollinate the plants. Adaptation of the bats in the relations is explained there. I am going to tell now. Nocturnality, that is the bats are active in night. This is useful adaptation for them, and flight requires a lot of energy during the day. Flight adaptation means the forelimbs are modified as a servings. Tail supports and control the movement during flight. Some muscles are well developed and highly powerful to achieve in the beating or swings. Hibernation is a state of inactivity in which the body temperature drops with a lower metabolic rate during winter. Echolocation means bats gives out high frequency sound, that is ultrasonic sounds. These sounds are reflected back from its prey. Adaptation of earthworm. It's commonly found in soil. This is a farmer's friend and vermicomposting method. These all already learnt in your previous session, isn't it? So how the earthworm is adapted? The streamlined body first. It's like a cylindrical elongated. You know very well it is a segmented body. So that helps to be in the narrow barrow of underground, and easily it can able to penetrate into the soil. Then skin. Mucus covers the skin which does not allow the soil particles to stick into the body, and that moist skin helps the oxygenation of blood. And burrowing is a method which a body is flexible and it can have a circular and long muscles which helps in the movement of subsoil burrowing. And the last one is aestivation. When the soil becomes too hot or dry, the earthworm becomes very inactive because of this. Earthworms move deeper into the soil and secretes the mucus and lower their metabolic rate to reduce the water losses. So earthworms are refers us to the farmer's friend. After digestion of organic matter, earthworm excretes a nutrition-rich waste products called castings that is used in the vermicomposting. The last one is nocturnalities. That is, the earthworms are very sensitive to the light. It has no eyes, but the sense light through light sensitive cells, that is photoreceptors, are present in their skin. So they will be react negatively to the bright light. Water conservation. Water conservation is a preservation, control and management of water resources. It also includes the activities to protect the hydrosphere and to meet the current and future human demand. So here we are going to see the importance of water conservation. So water is very efficient thing that you should protect from the other resources, and also you should helps in decreasing the water pollution, which increase energy savings, and ensure that you have enough usable waters. In water conservation measures, it's taken in the industrial conservation, agriculture conservation, and as well as the domestic conservation. In these three conservation, we can conserve the waters. World Water Day is on 22nd March every year, is about focusing the attention the importance of water. The domestic conservation, this we can do in a day-to-day life, isn't it? So using a bucket of water to take bath rather than you can take for the shower, so use always bucket. And using a low flow taps, using a recycled water for the lawns, and repairing the leaks in the tap, and recycle or reusing the water wherever it is possible. In industrial conservation, using dry cooling system, if water is used for cooling agent, reusing water for irrigation and other purposes. Agriculture's conservation, sprinkle method and drip method can be used, and mulching of a soil in the vegetable cultivation and in horticulture. Farm pond. Farm pond are used to one of the strategies to support the water conservation. The much rainfall of the ground, the rain off not only causes a loss of water but also washes away the precious topsoil, isn't it? So farm pond helps the farmers to store the water and to use it for the irrigation. So advantages of the farm ponds: it will reduce the soil erosion first of all, and it will improve the drainage, and which also improves our water level, that is groundwater level, and it also promotes a fish rearing, and it also provides a water for the domestical purposes, which is you provide a water for irrigation even there is no rain, and it also provide the water to growing crops without waiting for the rainfall. Water recycling, this is one of the best method to conserve the water recycling. So water recycling, apart from the rainwater harvesting, is also one of the key strategies to conserve the water. Water recycling is a reusing treated wastewater for beneficial purpose such as agriculture, landscape irrigation, and industrial processes, flushing in toilets, and groundwater recharge. Wastewater recycling stages, it's a primary treatment, secondary treatment, as well as it will have the tertiary treatment too. In primary treatment, what will happen? The primary treatment is a temporary holding the wastewater into the tank, and remaining liquid undergoes for the secondary treatment. In secondary treatment is also removes all the biodegradable dissolved organic matters, and microorganism must be separated from this treatment by the method of sedimentation. After that, it will goes to the secondary is over, then it will goes to the tertiary treatment. In this tertiary treatment is otherwise called as a advanced treatment. It involves a removal of inorganic constituents such as nitrogen, phosphorus, microorganism, and fine colloidal particles in the sewage waters are precipitated by adding some chemicals like alum or ferrous sulfate. This recycled water can be used in agriculture, landscape, public parks, and cooling water for the power plant and oil refineries, toilet flushing, dust control, and also it is used in the constructive activities. Now we are going to see the IUCN, that is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. This international organization working in the field for nature conservation, and it is a globally authority on the status of natural world. Vision of IUCN is a just the world that values and conserves nature. This mission, that is IUCN, is to influence, encourage, and assist a society throughout the world to conserve and the diversity of the nature. Organization is the best known to the wider public for compiling and publishing the IUCN. So India, which have a mega diverse country with only 2.4 percentage of world's land area, and 7 to 8 is all recorded species. It includes over 45,000 species of plants and 91,000 species of animals. 4 of 34 globally identified biodiversity hotspots are found in India. So they are Himalayas, Western Ghats and Northeast, the Nicobar Islands. So IUCN was founded on 5th October of 1948 at a glance in the Switzerland. Here we have the red list categories of IUCN. In this we can able to see this not evaluated, data deficient and least concern, and all these are here. Okay. India was become the state of this in IUCN in 1969. Here the extincted animals is in Himalayan brown or red bear, and EN, that is a an endangered animal. CR is critically endangered. That critically endangered is a Himalayan brown or red bear, and EN is an endangered animal, that is a red panda.